Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about affirmative action, race, gender, quota, hiring. I could do one of these videos almost every day, I reckon, but I come across it so often now that I'm almost I'm not accepting as a reality or as the reality, but it kind of is the reality as well because it's so widespread now. So this is again, I've got a share in a business for those who don't know, and so sometimes I deal myself into the front line of things if it's particularly if it's an area of business which I have particular expertise, or maybe someone's unavailable to go, so I'll jump into the line to cover for them. So anyway, we've got a business meeting, and this company wants to contract our services. This is like intellectual property level services, and so we're going along to the meeting now. We're dealing with the guy in operations, and he's not very bright, and he's struggling with some of the things, but he's quite earnest, he's quite genuine, and he is trying to get the job done, and he is willing to listen and willing to learn. So he's about 30, early 30s, I suppose. And I'm surprised that he got the job, but we assumed he was a straight white male, but he actually wasn't. He was fairly swarthy, so I would think probably more, maybe half Iranian, something like that. I think would be a guess, my guess anyway. But given his name, so I'd say a white father and an Iranian mother. That would be my guess, or Arabic mother. So we go to the meeting now. We're going to meet at the meeting. There's going to be a few people there. There's going to be the director of the senior director or managing director, whatever they call them, of Asia Pacific operations. Now it's a multinational firm, not huge, but it's a decent sized one. They'd easily have 1,000 employees, and so the Asia Pacific director is going to be also the director of technology, or the vice president or something of technology is going to be there, and some other flunkies. So we turn up there. We're a bunch of straight white males, all in our 50s, or one guy in his late 40s, and the other two in their 50s. So and we've all been in our own field of endeavour, at least high achievers, and have achieved things in our own right, and could demonstrate that in a CV. So we. So we come to the meeting, and I'm a little bit surprised to see the swarthy, and I do say a little bit, but he was there again. He's quite earnest. He's really trying to do his best, and whenever you come across people like that are trying so hard and really want to do better, and try, my reaction at least is to do everything I can to help them and to give them any guidance, without making them feel belittled in any way, and try and give them as much support as they can in their, the opposite being people who don't give a fuck. But so the director of, and he's quite smartly dressed, this dude. So the Asia Pacific director comes in. It's a woman, a white woman, straight, I'm guessing straight, and she's in her 40s, and she looks like she's some sort of auntie that's gone shopping in fucking Walmart or something like that. I don't know, the clothes aren't necessarily cheap that she's wearing, but she comes in with a look on her face of she doesn't give a shit, doesn't want to be there. There's no light in her eyes at all. Now, bear in mind, she's in a job where she'd be easily paid $500,000 a year, easily $500,000 a year. Now, for that sort of money, this company could have anyone they wanted. There would have been people willing to pull out their back teeth to get a job this prestigious and that pays that well. Which, you need at least this sort of money to get ahead in Sydney these days. So it's a job where you actually can get ahead with. One of the very small number of jobs now that does permit that in terms of the pay it offers. So she's got a plum fucking job. So you would expect a high quality person in there. But instead, she comes in almost like half asleep, doesn't care. Hair isn't properly done. The clothes, she's wearing clothes that look like that they weren't necessarily cheap clothes. They were sort of brand name clothes, but it looked like she'd hadn't washed them or ironed them or anything. They were creased and they didn't really fit her very well. And she's wearing clothes that she obviously put on some weight, and so she's wearing clothes. You could see the stretching on the seams, and it wasn't a good look. I mean, she had makeup on, but not expertly applied. And now maybe I'm selling her short. Maybe her mother died that morning or something, or maybe there's a major calamity. Like, who knows? I don't think so. That sort of vibe didn't come across. It's just someone who didn't really care. So given her way she was talking, her talents clearly are not anywhere near the level she's been elevated to. She's a general dog's body in the marketing department, or a receptionist, or maybe someone in sales administration, something like that. There's a junior operations person, that sort of thing. That's her level. Certainly her intellectual level, at least, and she had zero get up and go in her, and zero interest, and so on. So she comes in, and I could see that the guy who'd sort of invited us in and we'd been talking to, he was embarrassed by it, and you could almost see the cringy look on his face. Oh no. And I was wondering, why does she deal herself into the game here? She clearly doesn't want to be at the meeting. She's got nothing to contribute, nothing to add. Is she there just to show us how big and tough she is? Is this a personal glorification exercise? I mean, what is it exactly? Why is she here? If she needs to be sort of riding shotgun on it, then why isn't she asking questions? And that? She's obviously done no research. If the guy did brief her, and I assume he did, I mean, he seemed to be the sort of guy that would. If he did brief her, she pretended to know nothing. She's walked in the room pretending to know nothing. Okay, let's start right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. Why am I listening to you? Why are you here? But it was said in such a way, I thought she might have fallen asleep halfway through the sentence. So clearly someone that wasn't even minimally qualified. So I looked her up online. It's not hard to find people's CV these days. And this is, if you look at the CV most people put online, that they've juiced it up a fair bit. So even with juicing up, it still was well short of what you'd look for. I tried to find the if there was any advertisement that they placed for this role that I could find, and then just see how far off her CV was from what the requirement. I mean, again, they could have had anybody. Yeah, there were tens of thousands of people they could have had that would have been far better, infinitely better qualified than her. Yet they ended up with her. I mean, she's not a good-looking woman, so it's not like someone's fucking her or something and gave her the job. It's not like that. She looks plain, ordinary. She's hunched over. I mean, why the fuck would you employ somebody like that for that sort of job? A receptionist job or something, or again, a sales admin, who cares? But for that job. So anyway, it got worse. We were then joined shortly after by I think it was the vice president, they call her, or the senior general manager, something like that, of technology. And in comes this Muslim woman in full Muslim regalia, by the way, the hijab, the whole fucking thing. She comes in, she can barely speak a word of English, and she's the technology director, and so she can't really contribute. And it puts these people under a lot of pressure. She walked into the room and sees us, a bunch of straight white guys. These people have already got a chip on their shoulder. She's been gifted a job through affirmative action. She can't really speak a language. Her understanding of even the technology of her own company is and her own products, that she's supposedly meant to be representing. she her knowledge is not even half of what our knowledge is, and we acquired that. No, I mean, we've got years being in the space of that sort of technology, but she knows half of what we're not even half of what we do, and what she does know she can barely articulate anyway. Why would you give somebody like that job? I mean, fuck. Now I don't know how much she gets paid, but I would guess those sort of jobs they pay like three times or so the average wage. So that's enough money to live independently. Again, the dwindling number of jobs that pay enough to live independently in the West and in Australia. And so again, they could have had anybody they wanted for that job. If they could have had hundreds, thousands of tens of thousands of people queuing up to get that job. And yet they choose someone who is manifestly unqualified just because they need someone in a hijab to show that they're fucking, they're woke as fuck and so on. But I want to talk about how much cost this adds to our society and the business sector and cost it. And we all have to pay for this in reduced standards of living. And I used an example in the description of, what if the plumber or it could be the electrician or anybody comes around to fix something in the house, but they got to do it 10 times because they keep on fucking it up because they don't know what they're doing. They haven't got a clue. Or the surgeon that has to have 100 goes to remove your appendix, but it ends up removing your kidney or your liver instead, or they do such a botched job of stitching you up, and these sorts of things. You have to go back again and back again and back again. Now, because you're going back to that surgeon all the time to get a repair job done because he fucked it up the last time, that means a patient genuinely needing that surgeon's, or genuinely needing surgery can't get the surgery. Maybe they should be grateful that they avoided that surgery. Can't get the service. It means that beds are being taken up unnecessarily because they're having to redo things again and again, whether it be the doctor or the plumber or the electrician or whoever. And in the end, it's a shoddy job anyway, because that person is so unproductive and fucks so many things up. They can't make the revenue that they would in a professional outfit, so they have to jack up the price. The only way they jack up the price, but then they're in trouble, so they have to go to the government and say, look, we've got so many affirmative action hires here, we fuck everything up that we touch, so you got to give us a monopoly. We've just got to prevent the customer from having any other option, any alternative. We've got to prevent that in order to cover up for all the uselessness, all the useless affirmative action hires we've got, because we've got to do things 10 times over because we fuck it up so much because we've got so many low quality hires, unqualified people. So we need now monopoly pricing. That means everyone then in the society and the community has to pay double what they would for goods and services because of all the affirmative action hires and so on. It's like all the affirmative action hires going into public service, people from India and so on. Certainly the ones I come across are all fucking useless. So we get worse service delivered by government, noticeably worse, by the way. We get worse services and we have to pay more taxes because there are more people. It's taking 10 people to do the job that otherwise one would have done. And you see this in India as well, or any of these third world countries. I've seen things where like everything from, a factory to bricklayers to whatever, they have, they're a tenth as productive as a Western worker is. Inefficient management, not sufficiently skilled, piss poor organisation, so on and so forth. But and labour is so cheap in some of these countries that you don't bother automating or putting machines in the factory. You just have people, because there are so many people and so much cheap labour, you just have them running around, with soldering irons or with screwdrivers or something doing the work. You don't bother with machines. So the productivity, you look at say steel production in somewhere like India, and they can produce steel for a third of the price that it can be produced in the West, but it's they're about one eighth as productive as the steel production in the West. So in the time it takes them to do it, the quality of the steel they produce, the amount of work is needed, the overall cycle of production. So, and we see this when the Indians and people from other third world countries come to Australia. They've got the work ethics and habits and attitudes that they had in the third world country that they've come from. They bring those here, and those are indulged, and then they're given affirmative action jobs in the private sector as well, and not just the public service, but the private sector. So this meeting was, and again, I come across this often now. This meeting was an example, a typical example of sort of things. There was, other than there was no one in the room, no one on their side that should have had that job that they were in. Even the guy who was trying hard, he wasn't qualified to be doing that job. Now, I think he'll make a go of it. And if you're in a company that where there was a lot of professionals there, and you wanted to give someone a go who was sort of coming up. I mean, he's a bit older than somebody in their early 20s, maybe you'd give them that sort of opportunity. But if you wanted to give someone a go, it'd be someone like him who was genuinely trying hard and working hard and wanted to do better. You'd give that gig to somebody like that. But he still wasn't qualified, nor was he a bright guy. So he's going to hit his level probably pretty soon, where unless he wants to broaden his intellect somehow, he'll already hit the ceiling of what he's capable of. But the chief executive of the Asia Pacific sort of division of the business, she was outrageously unqualified and outrageously unsuitable for the role, and didn't seem to even want to be there. Didn't seem to give a flying fuck. Now, her boss. Why would her boss keep her in that job? If I was the boss and she was reporting to me, and she was displaying that attitude, that look, that don't care, and was that underqualified, assuming I hadn't hired her, I'd come in after the event. I'd get rid of her almost straight away, with that attitude. And A, on the basis she's completely unqualified, but B, the attitude, the don't care attitude. She mumbled when she spoke, and you look at the people in the company, they're all affirmative action hires, and the only white males I could see were very young. They're like the fresh out of college type age. Those are the only white males I saw, not that many of them. And one of them that I spoke to briefly, just because he had one of the products in his hand that we were going to be dealing with, and I spoke to him, and I don't think he's retarded necessarily, but he was a low IQ guy, and I thought, why would you hire somebody like that? Like in that sort of role. I'm sure he might get a role as a labourer or this or that, those sort of things. But why would you hire somebody that dumb? But anyway, but I'm seeing similarly, we're seeing that even where straight white males are CEOs, they're so caught up in this ESG and wokeness, and they're so desperate to skite about how many black lesbians they hired yesterday. The sort of people that are into that, and that are easily swayed by that sort of nonsense, they're not high quality people. They're not people that have gone anywhere. They themselves are a form of affirmative action hiring. We'll hire a straight white male provided they're totally on board with this affirmative action, the ESG stuff, that type of thing, which is in itself a form of affirmative action, even though the guy's a straight white male. The cost to us is huge, and it's getting bigger by the day. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.